there's a catch that I need to make. There is no way that any of this information is meant to help anyone. It's just how I see where things took place. As a group of best friends, they were known around the world as the Diesel Brothers. They built a business from a small shed in Utah using mud, sweat, and steel. They weren't just a team. They were a family. But that friendship wasn't real. The family broke up when the TV cameras stopped rolling and the government lawsuits started to pile up. The men who left Heavy D to face the ruins alone are now being found out. The very first deception. The rich man who ran away when the feds came calling. Every kingdom needs a leader, someone who makes things happen from behind the scenes. For the Diesel Brothers, that person was Josh Stewart, who most people know as Redbeard. He wasn't just a guy in the background. He was a partner in the business, and people called him the Money Man because he was so good with money. Heavy D, whose real name is Dave Sparks, came up with the crazy truck builds, and Diesel Dave, whose real name is Dave Kiley, got the people excited. Redbeard was in charge of the numbers. He was in charge of making sure that their crazy plans could come true. Diesel Sellers was more than just a service shop for them. Fans from all over the country could get custom 6-foot figure cars thanks to a huge operation. They got their own hit show on the Discovery Channel thanks to this business plan, which made them rich and popular. They felt great. But they were successful because of a bad idea. They became well known for making trucks that could roll coal and send huge clouds of black smoke into the air. It was a big part of their brand to do things like illegally changing a truck's emission system. They even made movies of themselves smoking while driving a Prius to make fun of people who drive them. This loud and proud attitude caught the attention of the wrong people in the end. Their name was sued in 2016 by a group called Utah Physicians for a Healthy Environment, UPHE. The doctors' group said that the Diesel Brothers broke the Federal Clean Air Act a lot of times. They said that the crew was breaking down machinery on their trucks that kept pollution from spreading, changing them into what they called disease-causing machines. To show their point, UPE bought a truck from the Diesel Brothers and had it checked out. The results were really shocking. There was 36 times more pollution and 21 times more particulate matter from the truck than from a regular truck. It wasn't just their company that was being sued. It named the important players by name. David Sparks, Caton Hoskins, and Joshua Stewart were named as suspects in the court papers. This put Redbeard, who was in charge of the money, in the middle of a legal and financial storm that could destroy everything they had worked for. The government was after their personal things. There was a lot of pressure. Just when his brothers needed him the most, Redbeard never came back. He wasn't on the show after season 5. There were no big news or goodbye episodes. The next day, he was an important part of the team, and the next, he was nowhere to be found. His time wasn't right, quite by chance. As the court case was coming to a close, he left just as things were getting heated. The empire he helped build was left to Heavy D and the others to deal with on their own. For Heavy D, this was the first big lie he told. Under pressure, the man who was meant to be his financial rock broke down and ran for cover. Where did the money man go? Did he start a new trucking business? Did he use his business sense to make a huge new company? The truth is much stranger than anyone thought. That's not all Josh Stewart did when he left the Diesel Brothers. He turned down the whole world. He turned away from the loud engines, the black smoke, and the trouble. He instead found a new life through faith and health. Josh got back in touch with his Native American roots. He grew up on a tribe in Utah. He talked about getting along with nature and hearing words from beyond this world. He started a new company that sells cold plunge tubs, which are popular right now as a way to stay healthy. He now meditates and does jiu-jitsu in his free time to live a calm and steady life. It was a full 180-degree turn from the Diesel Brothers' culture of defiance against rules. He gave up the loud roar of a modified diesel engine for the quiet sound of peaceful thought. Everything is clear after this big change. It wasn't just to avoid a case that he quit. It was an outright refusal of the way of life that made him famous. He was telling the world and Heavy that the Diesel brothers' way of life was bad by picking a path of health and nature. He didn't just leave the business, he also left the point of view. Heavy D had to stay and fight for the company they all made, so this was a mean thing to say to him. The con artist had already cashed out, so he had to pay the price. Heavied was wrong if he thought that was the deepest cut. The next lie would not come from someone running away, but from someone who was standing right next to him and making a deal in the dark. The second lie was told by the muscle who broke lines to protect himself. At the same time that Redbeard was finding peace, the court battle against the Diesel brothers was still going strong. Heavy D and Caton are the only two members left. The Hoskins were still responsible and would have to pay a huge fine for breaking the Clean Air Act. The role of Caton Hoskins was not in the background. His nickname, Muscle Man, came from the fact that he was known for being able to find hard-to-find parts and being very strong. Diesel Dave and he had been friends since 8th grade, and he met Heavy D through Diesel Dave. Friends before the show started. He was close with the crew, like a brother who had been there for the crazy start in the Diesel world. People thought they would stand together when the case came out. There was a team spirit among them, and they would face the enemy together. They both got the same lawyers and planned to defend themselves together. They all had to sink or swim together because they were in the same boat. But Caton Hoskins had something else in mind. There was a move made behind the scenes to save the muscle as the court fees mounted and the risk of going bankrupt grew. Caton betrayed his friends by going against them and making his own deal behind their backs. News stories and court documents both proved that Caton Hoskins settled the lawsuit with the U.S. government and the Utah physicians for a healthy environment. He made a deal behind closed doors to avoid going to court and limit the damage to his own finances. This also ended the ongoing court fight. Heavied was left completely open by this move. Heavied kept fighting, didn't agree with the court's ruling, and tried to save the company they had all built together while Caton quietly left. The separate deal Caton made was a terrible blow. It broke down the illusion of togetherness and showed that whenever things got really bad, everyone was on their own. The Brotherhood was no longer alive. The Muscle Man decided to look out for his own future, even if it meant leaving his brother to deal with the storm on his own. What did Caton do now that he was free? He didn't wait around. After the lawsuit was over, he started building his own empire right away, which had nothing to do with the Diesel brothers' name. He set himself up as an expert for people who want to be entrepreneurs by starting a mentoring program called Limitless Society. People could learn how to build their own businesses and live a life without boundaries through his new brand, which was all about personal success. He began telling people about his life, which included he hid his troubled childhood and even time spent in jail by saying he was a self-made millionaire who had beaten all chances. He said that by the time he was 35, he had started and run more than 35 businesses, ranging from exercise and